Well, few historians can tell a tale better. That's a quote from a review of a new book by UT professor and author H.W. Brands. His book, The Heartbreak of Aaron Burr. It's getting great reviews. H.W. Brands joins us live in studio. Thanks for being here so much.
My pleasure.
Aaron Burr, notorious for shooting and killing Alexander Hamilton in a duel. Not exactly a favorite among American history. Why did you choose
Well, that's
him?
exactly why I decided to write about him. Because in the first place, he is one of the great scoundrels. He's perceived as one of the great scoundrels, the villains of American history. But I figured that anybody, first of all, scoundrels, villains are much more fun to write about than heroes. But secondly, he had a remarkable relationship with his daughter.
Right.
And Burr was really a forward thinker. He was a believer in women's equality, in the ability of women to learn as much as men could, to be the intellectual equals of men. And there is a wonderful correspondence that survives between Burr and his daughter. So it allowed me to tell this story. The public life of Burr is a fairly familiar story.
Right.
But this private side is much less familiar. To me, much more engaging.
There were all these letters that were written back and forth between Aaron Burr and his daughter, Theo.
Yes.
How did you come about these letters?
The letters were collected originally probably by people who were Burr's enemies, who hoped to use the letters against him. But some of them, they just kind of wind up in various historical archives. And these days, with the internet, all sorts of stuff is available on the internet. And they tell the story of Burr and his daughter. And to watch the relationship develop through the correspondence is great fun, because he starts writing her when she's about 3 years old. And he writes as a father would a 3-year-old daughter, but gradually she matures until they're corresponding as adults, and they're sharing all of their secrets, political, personal, and the whole thing. And to see this side of Burr is to get a very different view of Burr than one gets from the textbooks of American history.
How foreign of a concept was this, of this female intellectual equality that he practiced at that time?
It was quite unusual, and I'm pretty sure that this was one of the reasons for the hostility with which Burr was viewed. Because if you look at Burr as an individual, it's hard to figure out exactly why people got so upset at Burr. And he was a very charming fellow. I think that was part of his problem. You know, sometimes people are too charming. Bill Clinton, you know, was often considered so charming that people, there's got to be something wrong with this guy.
Right.
Well, Burr was that way. And I think the fact that Burr believed that women could be equal, this was a revolutionary concept. This was very radical, and it threatened the underpinnings of American societies that existed at the time.
And so he had this family life, and he had his political life, two different worlds that kind of collided up until his death.
Well, they did, and in fact, I include in the book a letter that Burr writes to his daughter on the night before the fateful duel with Alexander Hamilton. And he doesn't know if he's going to live or die. So this is sort of his last will and testament. And it's the moment when the political and the personal get very closely intertwined.
Interesting. It's called The Heartbreak of Aaron Burr. Again, it's getting great reviews. Mr. Brands will be at Book People this afternoon, signing.
You bet.
Signing autographs.
7 o'clock this evening.
At 7 o'clock this evening. That's at 6th and Lamar at Book People. Thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure, Brian.
Enjoyed having you.
Thanks for having me.